Cool, cool. All right, we are live. Welcome to Tags Live. I'm your host, Steve V, alongside my co-host right here, Kodi Maurice Doggette. Kodi, how you doing?
I'm wonderful. Hello, darling.
Hello, darling. Exactly. That sets the tone for this week's show. This is our third week, and we are so happy to be a part of the Connection Zone on the Get Vocal application. Get Vocal application is this really cool platform that is video based, a little bit like Zoom call, a little bit like Facebook Live. And what I really love about it is they've put us in the 9 o'clock slot every Wednesday for the Connection Zone. And people before us, people after us are all about sex, love, relationships, and we couldn't be happier to be here. I believe we are broadcasting also on our YouTube channel as well as Facebook. So I'm going to tune in over, yes, and I see us on I see us over there on YouTube, and I'm going to turn the volume down over there so that we don't get confused there. But anyways, let's get started. Kodi, you and I, oh, and by the way, this just to preview this show a little bit later in the hour, we have got DJ Dan DeLeon joining us. Super excited. He was so excited. Friend of mine that I've known since LA. He was on our other show, Sex with Stevie, our live Facebook channel show. That's a lot of fun. Well, he's back, and he's going to be talking about spinning this Labor Day weekend in Atlanta. Yep. And we're going to drill him. We wish we could drill him, or he could drill us. But
whichever way he wants
it. Exactly. We'll keep it. Well, we won't push him too hard, but no. We have a lot. We have our questions ready for him, and we are ready. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're also going to be talking about part 3 of a series we started when we started this show called Vulnerable Voices. Can't wait to get into that. And yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. Plus some viewer questions that we're answering for you. But before we get started, Kodi, you and I hung out last week and last Sunday, and we actually went out for the first time to a bar. And I felt like a virgin in so many different ways. I felt renewed.
That happened.
Not much. But you know, with everything that's been going on, I do feel like I've been rebaptized, and we went to the New York Eagle, which for a lot of my friends that know me know that was my staple. That was my Cheers bar. It still is, I guess, in a lot of ways. And the way I know that it is my Cheers bar is that the minute you and I walked up to the bar last Sunday, the doorman, we could say his name, Sharif, who's just awesome, was like, "Steve, welcome home." Yeah. When you get a welcome home at the bar.
I was like, am I with a celebrity? Okay, wait a minute. I think I am.
No. But how much fun did we have? I mean, a lot different than what we're used to, but how much fun did we have going out in this new way on the rooftop at the Eagle?
I had a wonderful time. It's definitely a new experience. So in a way, I'm a virgin too. Maybe not in the same way as you. But even the guys that were 6 feet away from us, next to us, they even commented that this was like, it was just like a new experience for them, and how it was a little bit strange, but still, it was still good to be out and amongst our peers and other gay people. Because I think I was definitely missing those safe spaces as far as gay spaces are concerned.
I agree. I remember those guys next to us, and it was fun, kind of, and they were cute too. I remember we were like, "Okay, hello over there," from a distance. How you doing? However, like we thought, you and I before, you had some guy come up to us and was all up in your space. What was with that? Real quick, tell that story.
Okay, so we were sitting there, and you and I were in the middle. If he would have came up to me, I probably would have been like, dude, calm down. I'm here with my friend and we're having a conversation or whatever. But he was like really close to me trying to talk to me. And I was like, not having it at all. I was like, okay, it's good to talk to you. Have a good day.
Exactly.
Like very dismissive. And he got the picture pretty quick, and he just turned it on around.
He really did. And it was just, he was getting way too close and a little too loud. And we've talked about it on Tagspodcast before. My other co-hosts have talked about it, how with a little bit of alcohol, sometimes inhibitions go down. And yeah, but you were so on point. My favorite part about the whole situation was Kodi literally was like, as the guy's coming way too close, way closer than 6 feet, he had one of those masks that just was a bandana mask and immediately pulled it up and was just kind of like shielded and guarded and ready to go. And I love that. It was like, yeah,
look,
yeah, you're not playing.
I ain't playing no games out here in these streets. All right.
Well, we're going to get into some, normally in this next segment, we would do hot gay sex topic or breakdown one, but we had so many viewer questions from you all last week that we thought we'd finish up on some of those, including one that somebody actually wrote into us that heard our response and had something to say about it. And I'll just read you what he initially said. He says he's writing because this is last week, and we answered his question last week. But just for you new people, he's been thinking of supplementing his full-time job with an OnlyFans account. But there's definitely no limit to dudes doing stuff online, and he'd rather not go through the risk for a little benefit. He was asking us, do you know anyone willing to provide a consult or even someone with a production company? He said it's somewhat of a weird question. Well, we answered that question. I thought we gave him some really good advice, and I think do what you got to do. And one of the answers I gave him was a guy that I follow, Greg McKeon, who offers sort of a free page on his OnlyFans. In other words, he starts with this Twitter account, giving you like a really great taste of what you're going to expect, a lot of good taste. Then you can actually sign up for a free account on Greg McKeon's account, and you get a lot of free OnlyFans content that's other people would probably be charging $9.99, and then he has a next subscription level for like the $9.99 and then a premium. So I was saying, and we all came down to the notion that it all comes down to the content, and you have to be willing to put out new content all the time. But he liked what we had to say. He said, thanks for answering it. Your answer gave me a good path forward. Sounds like the content comes first. Yep, that's what we said. And the fans come later. Well, in our opinion. And he said, since his job is fairly lucrative and he's pretty much a freak, sounds like Adina Howard. Remember that song?
What you know about that
song? Shush. I intend to keep anonymity with a mask and attempting to fetishize it while using a nursing theme, he says. So he's going to keep the mask on and come up with sort of like a nursing theme. I wonder if he works in the medical profession, but what are your first thoughts on hearing that?
So when I, just upon you telling me this, it immediately brings up another OnlyFans that I might be the OnlyFans queen, probably. Because I know of another OnlyFans content creator that he was in school at the time when he began his OnlyFans, and he never showed his face. I think his name is Damage Bottom, and it worked out just fine for him. And now that he's out of school, he's showing his face. He's actually in mainstream porn now, so it's actually
he transitioned that way.
Very, very, yeah. And he still has his OnlyFans, of course, and so it's a good lucrative way to get back into it. Even if you don't show your face, there's still lots and lots of things you can do.
And honestly, the idea of wearing the mask and the nursing theme works. So I love anything that's relevant and fresh to what's going on now. To me, we do a lot of production stuff here. And to me, you need to always be fresh, relevant, and wearing a mask, I think, really just plays into everything. And the idea of making the doctor theme, the nurse theme, who doesn't like that? I mean, there's so many storylines you could go with that, right? Well, we have one.
Yeah, naughty dot, notification.
Absolutely. Well, it looks like we have time for one more here. By the way, you can weigh in. Feel free to comment in our comment sections. We'll read them. I'll try to glance over to YouTube. And of course, we're on Facebook too. I'm not sure we can get there, but we'll try to get to all of your questions. And if you have questions for our upcoming guest at 9:30, DJ Dan De Leon, please shoot them in our messages. But one of them that came in my DM recently, he says, quote, I've been ghosted by 2 people who went to alcohol and drug rehab and 1 person who went to psych rehab in the past year. He asked the question, why is this so common in gay dating, or is it just me and the people I attract? Well, I'll start off real quick with my answer that I thought about is if it's just in the past year, part of our year has been in a pandemic, and so many people, as we've had psychiatrists on the show, Eric Yarborough, that I rebroadcasted this week on Tagspodcast, say that a lot of us have been going through a lot of mental issues, obviously, and it's not surprising to me that people have in different ways, maybe resorted to different coping methods. And some of them, unfortunately, at times might be the abuse of alcohol and drugs. But we all have mental issues. So that was the one thing that maybe my answer would be a little bit is if you're talking about within the last 6 months, give some of these people a break. And I don't know that it's just you. What would be your answer?
Yeah, I agree with you. So give yourself some space and be kind to yourself, especially during these times. I just think that maybe this gives you a place to look for the future. Maybe if you feel like you're attracted to the wrong type of person, maybe just look a little bit closer in that area that you think that is not desirable to you and that you think to avoid this situation in the future. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know his entire situation, right. And I'm not a mental health professional, but that's what I say.
But you are tell us a little bit about your coaching. This would be a good time to talk about that.
I'm a certified life coach, darling. And his story has given me a little bit of saver complex, but again, I would have to have multiple conversations with him before I even am like, we move forward from that general point of view. So
absolutely. And you can always follow Kodi Maurice Doggette on Instagram and reach out to him more about that at Mr. with an H Maurice and inquire more about his life coaching. And you have more of a focus anyways on relationships, but you do career as well, correct?
Yeah, 100%. I work with a lot of artists. I work with gay relationships and things of that nature. So yeah. The
other thing I would say too is that in talking to a psychiatrist that we had on the show, I just rebroadcasted, so I was re-listening to it. Eric Yarborough, we're going to have him back on Tagspodcast soon. And one of the things he, in general, in our LGBTQ arena, we come from a lot of different backgrounds and we haven't had a lot of education of our sexual education, our sexual health. I think it's a new era for a lot of us, which is really good, but it's not surprising to me that people would have different issues, and I don't think it's personal to you, but have a little compassion and empathy maybe for the people that have reached out to you to share their personal stories. And, obviously, if on some level you say they ghosted you, but somehow that it had to do with alcohol or psych rehab. But those are all cries for help, and people need to not shame people for that. And that's,
First and foremost, he should be happy that they're getting the help that they need. Yeah. So that's fantastic.
Absolutely. Jen says that Kodi's laugh is the best. I love it. And who can help with lesbian relationships? Last week on our Sex with Stevie show, we had Zoe on, and you can go to tagspodcast.com, and she was amazing as a sex education expert. And she has a new book coming out. She would be somebody we should talk more about that, Jen, and we could there's a lot of resources out there. We'll try and have more expansive conversations within our acronym LGBTQ, because I think that is so important. We've got to move on, though, to our series. It's part 3. Can you believe we're on part 3 of our series, Vulnerable Voices?
So excited. It's just so good to be vulnerable with you, Steve.
And with everybody else watching, of course. Yeah. No, exactly.
Now I feel some kind of way.
No, we started this series, if you just tuned in on our first broadcast, and it was suggested to me by a friend that we are in really a segue from LGBTQ and all the things that we all go through. We even as adults, there's so many vulnerabilities that we all have, and they are okay. It's when to recognize them and when to have these conversations. And I don't think there's enough platforms aside from your friends, and we're your friend here. So let's break down part 3. Last week we were talking a lot about body image, so you can look at last week's episode. And Kodi shared a really interesting story about a guy that he met that he was all ready to top until he saw his dick size that was bigger than his, and we broke that down. Well, you got to watch.
It only happened once.
Exactly. And I said, have you not heard of big dick bottoms before? Just saying. Anyways, but on this week, we wanted to expand the conversation on vulnerable voices. And this week, we thought one of the things that we all seem to have vulnerability with when we hook up with somebody, or even when you start dating somebody, is disclosing things like STIs, HIV status, and even newer things like COVID. Have you had it? Are you being careful? What's your hygiene practices? And then with COVID, when to date, when to kiss, and how far you want to go with all of this new arena that we're in. But starting with that and disclosure, HIV, or STIs in particular, I was thinking about this because for the longest time, I never had any. At 49, I've never had any STI ever. And I kind of wore it with like a badge of honor until my co-host, Jeremy Ross Lopez on Tagspodcast, said, don't think that you're so cool. Almost essentially I had to kind of get over myself, and I went on a cruise, an Atlantis cruise, if you must know, and I had some fun. Well, I'm just saying, I did get my first STI ever, and I had to get over that initial shame that I had, and that was a whole nother story. But in a recent dating arena, I remember sharing it with somebody, and it wasn't the easiest thing to share, and I felt myself even saying, oh, I had this, but I got taken care of. And even there was even some shame, even though I did the right thing and I was getting tested regularly, I still felt some vulnerability about sharing that I even had that. But hey, I'm telling you all, so I'm getting over it. But what's some with that world, either STIs or HIV, or that you would share, Kodi?
I mean, I've had an STI before, and of course I got treated and I got it all taken care of. I'm not quite sure even who I got it from, which is kind of not, again, like you were just saying, it's not something that you like to say out loud, but it's something that needs to be said, and the stigma needs to be taken away from it, because we're all human. We all slip up,
and maybe not even slip up. You don't know.
Mistakes are made.
Yeah, you can get it through saliva, or True. Thanks for bringing that point up. And just in this day and age, knowledge is power. You have to be forthcoming with this type of thing so that you protect people and you protect yourself. Absolutely. Yeah, I would agree with you. Knowledge is power. And the more you know, the more, especially like in this prep era that we're in, Jeremy, my other co-host,
Mhm.
has reminded me constantly on the show and for our listeners to constantly get tested regularly, even more so than the 3-month mark on STIs. And I just think
Mhm.
the quicker you learn something, we had a whole conversation. It reminds me of when to tell others, because the recommendation by doctors, so that you don't keep the STI within this bubble or this circle of people that you sleep with, is to then,
Mhm.
if you got one, kind of think of the last people that you did sleep with or person and tell them. And it's kind of your duty, not so much just to
Mhm.
shame anybody, but to make somebody worried, but to say, hey, look, this is what I got. Almost paralleling what we're talking about in COVID times, wouldn't you say, amount about tracing and so forth?
Yeah.
It's very similar.
Yeah. All I can think of is the TV shows that you see and them having to think about the last 10 people that they slept with and having to call each and every one of those people on that list. And that in and of itself is super vulnerable.
Yes,
And yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. Well, moving on with our conversation of vulnerable voices, this was something that you brought up, Kodi, on when in a
Yeah.
relationship or just in general, I would say, is to say I love you. Why did you think of this, and why did you want to bring this up? And I'll let you lead this.
So, like I shared last week, I am the type of person that when I meet somebody, I like plan the whole wedding in advance. I see how they can fit into my life. But actually coming to and saying I love you is something that I've made a lot of mistakes with in the past. And maybe I didn't really love that person. Maybe I thought I loved them and didn't, and it was really like lust or a strong like, and ended up hurting that person. So now what I do is I take time and I really evaluate my feelings for that person, so that I'm not hurting somebody in the long run. Yeah, I think the last time that I said I love you was in a romantic relationship. I told you
I
today.
know I
So
totally misread it, but what you were we won't bore. Kodi was telling me about this topic, how we should include, and I interpreted it as that I love you, bitch, and I was like, I love you too, Kodi. You're like, as I do love you, Steve. I was not. I know,
I
yeah. I
do
was
love
like,
you,
oh,
but
okay.
so yeah, I think I haven't told anybody that in a romantic relationship in
Yeah,
over 10 years. So I felt it, but I haven't said it
right.
to that person. Yeah. What
I would
about you?
agree that it's something very vulnerable to express that. And I was sharing last week on a summer romance fling that I had that it ended fine. It's just was we weren't kind of meant to be, but as you spend more and more time with somebody, particularly, I would argue, in a pandemic when you haven't seen anybody and the flesh and the
Mhm.
intimacy and all those things.
It-
Oh, I was
it's
getting.
easy to get wrapped.
Oh, I
It's
was
easy to get
wrapped.
wrapped up in those. I love you
Yeah, I
orgasms.
wasn't
That's
in
what I
that
call
part,
them.
but I was definitely the intimacy, of course. How couldn't you? And I would think that it's become more heightened in this period because we're all starving for true intimacy, true affection, true simple touch. That absolutely. But for me, I think when you mentioned this, and I think the reason why I responded on, oh, I love you too, is because for a long time it was hard for my family and all just to say those words. We knew that we loved each other, my parents and my sister and I. It wasn't something that we grew up just saying all the time. And I know a lot of families grow up with that, and some are on the other spectrum that don't get any of that. And so we knew we were loved as kids, but we didn't know that we didn't say it all the time. And I would have to say that it's two of my BFFs, Jeremy Ross Lopez on Tagspodcast says it all the time. And he got me kind of into that. I initiated that with my mother, and we certainly say it now all the time when we're talking, and we really mean it too. And Yeah, and so I would
Yeah.
say, I love you is vulnerable with those that it's definitely can come up with a romantic dating boyfriend situation. It can come up when you just, I'm getting, pounded, and I love you for that.
You really mean I love this orgasm.
I love your
I love this,
flesh.
I love this big
I love I love the size of it. I love what you're doing. Yeah. But yeah, so for me, it's meant a lot more in that arena, I think, of kind of, just people that are really important to me and that kind of love. And when you meet somebody here and there, it's they're kind of like fun moments, but we'll see if we get to that love, because that's a whole different kind of love. Yeah.
Have you ever?
Oh, we have to read this real quick. Jen says, she says,
okay,
would
go.
lesbians say "I love you" on the second date?
I bet they do.
And we've heard that before, and that always seemed like such a cliche, but I'm sure there's definitely some truth to that, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, if I could date a lesbian, I would. Trust me.
You would be, yeah. And those of you who don't know, Kodi was sharing with me he loves camping, and and I know we're talking cliches, and a lot of gays aren't into. Yeah, so yeah, you'd make a good lesbian.
I like flannel too, so.
All right, now simmer down over there.
I would be the lipstick.
You would, of course you would be. Of course you would be. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And let us know what some of your vulnerabilities are before we bring in our first guest. We have a few minutes here. Jen, yep, definitely. I'm just going to check our other areas real quick. Maybe, Kodi, you could check our Facebook page, Tagspodcast page, and see, and I will tell you real quickly, next week, we are going to be talking about vulnerable voices in part 4. It's our final day of vulnerable voices, and we'll be ending up about relationships and when to open up, about when you want something new, when to open up the relationships, when relationships might be getting a little bit stale. And we're going to be talking a lot about fetishes, which I think is going to be really exciting to talk that about. And I think it's going to be really important. And yeah, we're
all I heard was
yeah, right.
And
you and I have talked, as particularly to preview next week, is that you and I both have fetishes that I think came a little bit later, right, Kodi? Like for me in my 40s, I got more into fetishes. And what I really want to talk about next week is the vulnerability of exploring those fetishes, who to explore them with. And when you meet somebody that you're into, like who to explore those fetishes with, without feeling judged, whether it's like a foot fetish or whether it's like I've been so involved in the leather community and all that world, or dom and sub. Those are all vulnerabilities that can come with fetishes, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Yes.
100%. Sorry, I clear my cookies and I forgot all my passwords. So now
well, we got Renan says he's fetishes he's in. Okay, well, maybe you can join our conversation next week, Renan, and we'll pull you in.
Yeah,
for sure. Let me unlock this channel because our next guest is DJ Dan DeLeon. I see him on there. When he's ready, Dan, you can just grab this spot. It's called grab this spot, and we'll pull you in. And I think he's coming in right now. Hey, how are you?
Hey, how you doing?
Hey,
good. Happy Labor Day weekend, I guess, correct?
Yeah, totally right. Happy Labor Day weekend.
Absolutely. Thanks for doing the show. You did our show Sex with Stevie, like kind of at the beginning of all this pandemic or earlier in the spring, and so it's great.
Right.
Yeah. It's great to have you back. Welcoming DJ Dan De Leon, and we have so much to talk to you about, and including you're spinning this Labor Day weekend in Atlanta. We'll get into all of that. We've got our questions ready for you, but I think my first question for you is how has your morale been and your fellow performer DJs been in this entire pandemic when all summer long, spring and fall, you would have been spinning around the world?
Right. Yeah, it's been a really weird and difficult, year. The first events that I had that started getting rescheduled were in March, and I've had dozens of dates rescheduled and rescheduled again because people at first thought that the fall would be open, and now it who knows when these events will be back, especially the large ones, like the prides and stuff like that. So yeah, this is really exciting because Atlanta started opening up a little bit sooner, and and last weekend they had a big series of events across like 5 venues of 4 days, whatever, and it was a good turnout, and it was successful. So it's mask required and social distancing, and the venues are trying to use the outdoor sides of the venues more than the indoor or whatever. But it looks good, and I'm excited because it's work. So there's a lot of people doing all these virtual events, which are great. I've done streams, and I'm doing the Folsom Magnitude virtual party, which is September 27th, I think. So that's going to be a stream thing with, computer graphics, and Margaret Cho is emceeing the whole thing. And it should be really cool.
I know. We love her.
I love her.
Weekend's gonna be really neat. I'm curious to see how they do it. I know that they're going to be showing like short films, like fetish and kink, like short films. And they're asking for submissions right now. And then they've got the DJ events. They're going to have go-go dancers. My boyfriend Jacob's going to dance to, where the go-go's are going to basically be dancing in front of green screen also. So they can either zoom in live or they can pre-record their go-go set. So they're going to have all this different material to like cut back and forth from. And it should be fun. So, but yeah, this year's been rough. And thankfully the pandemic unemployment came through. So that's good. But yeah, it's interesting because this year has been kind of a weird year for me because I'm kind of resetting from a relationship that ended last year, and kind of like finding myself again. So I appreciated the fact that this whole pandemic thing happened when it did, and not like, because in a weird way, it kind of afforded me the space to kind of do this inner work and, work with my therapist and all this without having too much craziness going on. Because if I'm traveling and touring and all this, and I'm, trying to like deal with like emotions and feelings and thoughts and, interior, stuff, it can be very, it's just not going to go anywhere. I'm just going to kind of stay in place and not get any of that work done. So I've been able to really grow, personally, and kind of heal, which is good. I'm still in that process, but, so there's something to be grateful for, as well as, the nightmare that it is to not have work and to not know when you're going back to work.
Yeah. Kodi, what do you want to say? Ask him.
Yeah, I was going to say, hi, Dan. First of all, it's a pleasure to meet you. So you and other DJs have performed many like virtual parties. You were talking about this earlier. How is that to perform? And like, what's been your response from all the audience?
There's different kinds of setups for these virtual parties. So some of them are truly live, where it's like a live feed and you're spinning live and it's being broadcast live. And that's what I set up with, because we were doing like a short series, a short format web series called The Circuit. So I set up our first live stream for that, which was like a benefit.
It's really good, by the way. I love the graphics behind you.
Thank you. Yeah, that was a lot of work because we had to, we were spinning live, and then we were taking that feed. We had multiple cameras and computers. We had 4 computers going at the same time, just to be able to handle the whole thing, because we had the feed coming in, and then we had to affect the feed, and then we had the feed going back out, one feed going out of the effects computer to one laptop that was feeding to Facebook Live, the other one going to YouTube Live. So a computer for each one of those things. And the 2 cameras. It was a nightmare. It was so much work, but
effective.
Really cool,
but effective, yeah.
Yeah, it was a really cool experience. And the video effects artist was amazing. So that was really cool. But then there's a lot of other ways to do it. So you can pre-record your set, and then they can air it later and like do the effects later. So that's what we're doing for Folsom, for example. So that's going to be like, I'm going to record it on Friday and shoot it with a green screen. I bought my green screen. I don't know how I'm going to do all that, but we'll figure it out. And then send that to them over the weekend, and then they'll add effects and put it in the program, and then broadcast it all at the same time.
Well, you mentioned the circuit, the web series, and that's, I think, when we had you on my first podcast, Sex with Stevie, and you were talking about it when it was coming out, and about really just featuring you as a producer on the series, some dancers, other DJs, new DJs, and it was really riveting. Kodi and I were watching it, and cool, we love it. You can watch it on YouTube. Oh, yeah. But we had to ask you because there was a controversy that happened with 2 of the dancers that were featured in the circuit, that a lot of us know. When early on in the spring in the pandemic, there was a big party here in New York City with DJs at somebody's place, and it really got
Rona rave.
Rona rave, yes, the infamous Rona rave. And 2 of those, at least one of the dancers in particular, was FaceTiming, live streaming of what was going on, and got called out, of course. And our community, when you get called out for, of course, not social distancing, not wearing masks, and it went against everything that, of course, the New York was talking about, the CDC. What I loved about your web series, and I know you're one of the producers on it, is I like the recovery and the honesty that you ended up shooting an episode about this. Can you just talk about that and how that came about?
Well, in the throes of the quarantine, it's really hard to figure out. I'm a producer, but I'm the one of the 3 producers that's the most sort of removed from it. So I'm trying to help, on a macro level, like to, sort of get things done and get things in place. But they have to figure out, the content, and the storyline, and, what they're planning on putting together. So with the quarantine on, it's hard to figure out what to shoot. Like what do you shoot? What are you gonna? Who are you going to interview? What are you going to cover? There's nothing going on. It's really hard because basically we wanted to do an episode on the quarantine itself and on life in quarantine, and circuit sisters in quarantine. What are you going to do? That sort of a thing.
This sort of wrote itself, right?
And then it sort of wrote itself. So then the event happened. Yeah. That nightmare popped up, and that sort of became the meat of that episode, which was going to be about sort of life in quarantine. It ended up being about the drama, which, the series needed drama. There's a bit of a ongoing dialogue between the producers and the creator about whether to skew the series more in a docu-series kind of way, or to skew it more in a reality way. And he kind of threaded this middle of the road path, because he comes from the reality world. He's a editor on a reality show. Right. So that's sort of what he knows. But anyway, the Rona rave thing really was quite a big to do, and we got so much shit for it. The series has gotten a lot of shit for it.
Really?
Yeah, because the 2 guys who were involved in the one was a DJ and the other one was one of the dancers. They both were rather unremorseful. I mean, they were remorseful and they apologized and they issued apologies, but it didn't really happen the way that it should happen. It didn't sound the way it should sound. It didn't come across as like super authentic. So there was a lot of pushback from that. And in general, it just kind of made things look kind of bad. So we covered it. It was a good episode because that was good drama, and we want the drama if you're going to be doing a reality show. But all in all, I think it was kind of like a wash. And then since then, it's kind of been like, okay, what do you cover?
Yeah.
So it's been rough, you know. So it's kind of just, you know, on pause. They've got another episode that they've almost finished editing. And
it'd be great if the camera could follow you this weekend in Atlanta, right?
I suggested that, and they've, you know, they've thought about doing similar things. You know, there's an event coming up this weekend in here in New York. Jake is doing this event called Utopia out in, you know, it's like a little, I don't know, like a camping village or something. I don't know. It's like a, you know, some kind of all, you know, contained.
Oh, right. I read about that. Yeah.
You know, sort of place where they can control who comes in and who goes out, and they can take your temperature and do rapid testing and all that.
Exactly.
So they were going to do that. They were going to cover that. I suggested that they come to Atlanta because Atlanta at least has real venues that are open. So, you know, you come to an actual club, and tomorrow you're at another club. And so you're actually, you know, you're in a hotel, you're in a club. So it's more of like the regular thing. And it's sort of like the first event's back. So it would be really cool to cover that. But, you know, there's costs.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Kodi, what were you going to, you were on that.
I was going to say, what, can you just tell us a little bit more about your Labor Day gig on Sunday in Atlanta with the Peach Party at District?
Events. So they're going to do there's a Friday night at Heretic, a Saturday night. I think that's also at Heretic. I can't remember. And then there's the District party on Sunday, and then there's a closing party after my party. So there's at least 5 parties, and you know, basically Atlanta's open. You know, they've opened sooner. You know, they're managing it pretty well. They're not getting a lot of pushback there, so you know, things are good. It is like a diminished, you know, reduced capacity type of situation, but the pictures from the event last weekend look good. It's not like, you know, 10%, you know, it's like whatever it is, 30 or 40%. So it's about half full-ish, you know. And if you restrict the size of the dance floor and stuff, like it could still look pretty good. So it's exciting. And you know, with so many people still doing virtual parties and live streams and stuff like that, it's really, really exciting to be involved in one of the first few you know, weekends back somewhere, anywhere, you know.
I'm just wondering, do you think that the gays and stuff, because I know you have to wear masks and kind of socially distance, do you think it'll have the same vibe? But I say that because there was a concert, an actual, like, a British concert that did it in a large venue outdoors, and it worked. So do you think that you're kind of like this Atlanta, this event, being a part of it is kind of like a new way of approaching how we're going to do these large events?
Well, thankfully, my event is at an outdoor space. So District has an outdoor side, so it's going to be outside. So it might be a little bit less restrictive, simply because it's outside. So they might be a little bit more lax on mask adherence and stuff like that. I mean, I'm not sure, but like I know that it was kind of, you know, it's required to have it. You know, it's required to, you know, have the mask and try and keep your distance. But ultimately, you know, it's hard to enforce that, you know, all the way. So I think it's going to be all right. I think it's going to be fun. It looks like the events this last weekend were good, and everybody had a good time. So
you had a guinea pig to test out the waters. Thank God.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm secluded in my little space. So
right. Yeah, it'll be there. Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, you know, in terms of like this being sort of like a format for moving forward, you know, I don't know, because you know, Atlanta's, like I said, pretty lax and pretty quick to reopen, and they've got a Republican governor or whatever. So yeah. I don't know if that's going to be what every other place is like. Frankly, I have no idea how they're going to reopen in places like California and here in New York. It's like with such a high, you know, sort of
volume,
watch over factor, and like people being so intense about calling out this and calling out that. It's I really don't know if this year, if we're going to see actual events come back. I mean, maybe they'll have some kind of like, maybe some outdoor things, but we're going to be in like October and November soon.
Yeah.
So then
cold.
the outdoor thing goes out the window, So I really don't know. I think next year looks good. I think through the election, I think nothing's going to change. And then maybe, getting into like, into deeper into the fourth quarter, I think we might see something.
Deeper. I like that word. Kodi, we only have you for a few more minutes, so go ahead.
So, yes, I have another question for you. So I heard a little birdie told me that you have a new remix of Michael Jackson's Off the Wall
by my friend
with
Breathway. Yeah, friend of mine.
Breathway.
Yeah.
Your best
Tell
friend.
us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So my friend Sean, he's been a vocalist on a few of my tracks, and he had this vocal that he did, this cover that he did of Off the Wall a long time ago. Nothing happened with it. It just kind of sat there for years.
It's so good.
And he's so good. You listen to the vocal.
I love that song.
Yeah, you listen to the vocal, you're just like, fuck, this is so good, So I just wanted to do something with it. He was like, yeah, do whatever you want with it. So I got together with another friend and we put together, basically an original mix, but it's a cover, So we put that out a few weeks ago. So that's out already. If you go to shop.pumprecords.us, it's on Beatport. And then the remixes just came out last week. So they're really good. We've got like a tech house techno remix. We've got like a kind of like a tropical house, like beachy type remix, and a big room remix by this guy, Steven Jesco, who's done a really phenomenal job. And it's really good. I put the vocal on there too, because I wanted to, I wanted to like, it's not like the vocal isn't, it's out there anyway. I think it's on Sean's SoundCloud, but people don't know where that is. They don't, a lot of times they don't think so. So I actually released it on the remix package. I released the vocal. It sounds really good. So hopefully people, will fuck with it and do other fun stuff with it. But yeah, I released that. I also have my new album that's out called Global Anthems. And that's on every service imaginable, Spotify, whatever. iTunes,
Global Anthems.
It's Global Anthems, yeah.
Nice.
And that's like kind of like a retrospective of the last few years of releases on my label and stuff of mine.
Well, we couldn't let you go real quick because you have tagged yourself and embraced the idea of being a daddy, which you're too young to be a daddy in my mind. But and we've talked a lot about it on this show. How have you embraced the word daddy, and what does that mean to you?
Well, nowadays, these kids are calling 30-year-olds daddy.
Exactly.
Anybody's a daddy now. As a daddy is kind of like, it's almost like
I'm like great grandpa over here.
Yeah, it's like two 18-year-olds. One of them's gonna call the other one daddy. It's stupid. Yeah. But yeah, it's sort of like, in terms of the sort of the cultural zeitgeist and the sort of like, the whole daddy thing that's happening, culture-wide. I think it's really cool that it's happening at the same time that I'm, going into my 40s, So I've kind of looked out. I get to be the youngest, brand new fresh daddy.
There you go.
Right at the moment where daddy's
fresh
hot,
daddy. I like that.
Cool. So I like it. I'm not hating it. I'm digging it. That's fine. I'll roll with the daddy thing. It's cool.
Yeah, and I've seen some daddy pictures of you by Max Sturgis. Yeah. Can you tell us a bit about being photographed by Max Sturgis?
Well, I was going out to Dallas. This is last October, I think, November, something like that. Maybe November last year. Early November, and I had seen some of his stuff on Instagram, and I hit him up, and I was just like, "Hey, it'd be cool to."
He's really talented.
Yeah, really good, right? And like, it's cool to, it's like, I've wanted to do a shoot like that sort of like captures that like sort of daddy essence.
Yeah,
and like
the cowboy hat
turns you into like a daddy god. And it's like you don't see photographers every day that are so good that So this guy looked really good. He looked at my stuff. He was like, "Yeah, it's great. Sounds great. So come over." And it was the most interesting experience. He's him and his partner are both Christian, and they have like a sort of like a ritual, a bit of a ritual about like how they shoot. They use like the same jock strap that's like blessed that every
Oh, wow.
model uses. They put on
Okay.
this
It's true.
It's like this like blessed jock strap, and
I'm kind of obsessed right now. No.
and they live in this house. It's like this like a I don't know, the Craftsman Victorian. It's like this huge house on this very big lot with a huge garage. It's kind of like almost like a barn like garage.
Oh.
So, and the house, every room is just like something completely like out of a weird, you know, like Western fantasy, like a different kind of thing, a different dream that you haven't. So every room was a different sort of like, whoa.
Yeah.
And he had like cowboy hats and boots and just tons of stuff. And then masks and all kinds of other weird stuff, you know, like safari items, things like that. So it was really fun because, you know, first of all, they were very good at like sort of making me comfortable. And they were very good at sort of, you know, like, I don't know, it's like getting you into some kind of a groove where you trust them. And, you know, so like there's this mutual trust thing going on. So they're having you sort of do these different positions and poses and stuff. But when you trust them and you're kind of rolling with it, it starts to, you know, and you're wearing these items that they have there for you to wear and stuff. It kind of just flows. And before you know it, you know, you're having a great time. And then when I started getting pictures back, I was just like, oh my God, like, whoa, like Jesus Christ. I never knew I looked that good in a cowboy hat. I was like, oh my
DJ Dan De Leon. You can follow him at DJ Dan De Leon and see a lot of these pictures on Instagram because you give us a thirsty taste of it. And I'm sure there's more to be seen.
Yeah, the X-rated versions.
Yeah, where do we see those?
Those are on Max Sturgis's OnlyFans. So for now, they're on his OnlyFans. All of his X-rated stuff is on his OnlyFans. That's kind of what he does. So he shoots these shoots, and then he puts the G-rated stuff goes on a separate G-rated Max Sturgis account.
See, we were talking about OnlyFans, and you got it layered it out. It's tears.
Right.
It's tears.
Right. So, like, I have all these pictures now, and I've been thinking of the same thing. It's like, well, why not start an OnlyFans with like the X-rated versions of these?
We'll join your OnlyFans for sure.
All right,
absolutely.
I'm figuring it out.
And by the way, we love seeing pictures of you and your adorable boyfriend. You two are like so hot, and
thank you so much.
I know you celebrated his birthday, and that was a lot of fun. DJ Dan De Leon, thank you so much. Have a great spin.
Thank you guys.
Send me a note on how it goes, and
I will.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thanks,
guys. It's a pleasure, Dan.
Okay.
Bye-bye. My pleasure.
Bye. Cool. Oh my goodness. Super fun. That was so fun with him, huh?
So fun. Yes. I love that. He's so wonderful, so sweet.
He really is. Oh my God. Yay. Oh, thanks, Dan. That was a lot of fun. Jen says she's going to make her OnlyFans site. Thanks, Jen. Rob Smith.
I'll sign up for that one too,
Smith,
Jen.
Let's wear our masks. Yeah, I think we need to. Just checking in on some of our other pages here that are tuning in. Okay, good.
I'm going to Facebook right now.
Well, yeah, I would love to attend one of those parties. I think it would be a lot of fun. I think while we have our last few minutes, Kodi, we had one more question that we could read. Do you want me to go to that question and we can just kind of dissect that one? It was, hi guys, love the podcast since coming across it about 6 weeks ago. I'm recently out after 32 years living as a straight man. I've been dating one guy, and he's actually the only guy I've ever had sex with, and I wanted some of your advice. Our sex life is dull on my end because I want to try new things, but I don't really know what positions to try or what to do that will get him off. Do you have any advice on positions? Porn is just not realistic all the time, and I'm just running short on resources. Please help. I'll let you.
Okay. Okay, I'll start. So I don't know how experienced the guy that he's dating is, but talk to him and see what he likes first. That's what I would recommend. And because not everybody is the same, literally everybody.
Everybody.
Also. And also, I actually looked up the gay Kama Sutra, and there's a lot of stuff. I like Googled it, and so many things popped up, literally. So
you did some deeper research. I like it.
Our fans are very important to me. Also, I would recommend like a change of scenery, like if you do it in the bedroom all the time. See, Renan saying reverse cowboy is a good start.
Is that the one I was talking about last week? Yeah. That where the top is lying on the bed, perhaps like this, and then the bottom is on top. That is my favorite, and that's the one I really wanted to try.
Like this.
Thank you, Renan, because that's a really, absolutely. That's like one of my fantasy ones, and particularly, Renan, if you have a mirror in front of you, so that the bottom, so if you're the bottom, then you can actually see the dick and yourself getting it all done at yes. Get that mirror going. I think it's critical. I would agree with that, and not knowing what this guy was talking about in terms of whether he has been whether he's been the top or the bottom. I would agree with you, Kodi, and we talk a lot about it on Tagspodcast, is communication. The best thing you can do be kind to yourself if you've just come out at 32 years and you have this guy. Communication. We say it all the time, and it's one of those things that you'll get to know what your partner really likes if you just talk.
And what gets them up.
Renan says, oh my God, I need my glasses to see these things.
It says stick a GoPro to the wall and stream it to your TV. It's kind of like a mirror. It's kind of like a mirror, and you can kind of see yourself. You can see yourself as. So he's talking about like, videoing yourself and then streaming it to
Aram's taking notes. Okay, good. I think I know, Aram. I don't know that you need notes, Aram, but okay. Read Renan's, because I can't see that.
Oh, it says, because you see your partner's expression, so you see what works and what doesn't work. That's good advice. Thank you, Renan.
We need you on the show. Can we schedule you, please? And what does Queen say?
She says, she's just echoing what you said. She said that Renan needs a spot on the show, right?
Exactly, Renan. All right, we are signing you up. We've got several spots. We are here every Wednesday, and absolutely, thanks for playing along with this. One note: it's Labor Day week, and we are. If you watch our other show, Sex with Stevie, which happens every Thursday night, we are taking a week off to celebrate Labor Day week, and we're coming back strong next week with brand new Tags Live on Wednesday, and then of course we'll be live with Sex with Stevie, so I'm really excited for that. And enjoy your Labor Day weekend. And I just want, before we leave, I want to thank our guest, DJ Dan De Leon. Follow him. He was such a great guest, and I really appreciate him.
Yes, he was.
Absolutely. Up next we are part of the Connection Zone, and the sex, the relationships, the love keeps going on this platform. Get vocal. Up next is Sex Stories and Hang with YO. It's at 10 p.m. So check that out. And I want to thank my co-host, Kodi Maurice Doggette.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, everybody, for watching. You guys are wonderful. And thanks for all your comments.
We'll be back next week. Thank you.
All right.